Social anxiety has got me violently sipping on some gin and soda, wishing it could all be over.
How's it going, everybody? Today we have a very special guest. We have Areli, aka King Mala.
Hi.
Now, yeah, so you are, you just came out with a new single. For those of you guys that have seen her around my social media, has seen her around, and yeah, tell them about kind of what it is, what kind of drove you to make the single, and then we can get a little bit into who is Areli.
Yeah, totally. So my latest single is called Homebody. I released it almost a month ago, a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it's the third single off of my upcoming EP. But this song is kind of just I wrote it like pre-COVID, and at the time I was like really busy all the time, running around constantly, like working full time, doing my own artist project, and like constantly in the studio or at a show or at a thing. And I was so like mentally exhausted by it, so I just like wrote this whole song about just wanting to be home and like hating leaving my house and being socially anxious at every function. And like, yeah, it was just kind of like me talking about just wanting to be home, which is like 90% of who I am. And then COVID hit and I was like, well, this is extremely relevant now, I guess. So yeah, it's kind of what it's about.
Okay, awesome. Now, I know you and I have had previous conversations about kind of just opening up about mental health and our whole mission over here. Would you want to get a little bit into kind of your mental health journey that you've had to go through and kind of what brought you into the woman you came into today?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've always been really passionate about mental health and talking about it and being open about it, because I feel like almost every person struggles with mental health and mental illness, like it's some part of their life, whether it's like them personally struggling with it or having a family member that struggles with it, or a partner or a friend. So I've always been like really open about it, just because I'm like super bad at hiding my emotions. Like you can see it on my face, you can see it in my body language. Like I'm very bad at like hiding what I'm feeling. And so it's always been really apparent, like when I'm sad, when I'm down, when I'm manic, like it's very clear to the people around me. And so I've found the best way for me to like work through everything and like spare the people around me, if that makes sense, or is just to be like open and honest and talk about it. And talking through my feelings is really what just gets like what gets me through everything. I'm very bad at like keeping it down. But so yeah, I've always been like really open and honest, and like I really think that's the best way to sort of like understand yourself and communicate your needs to others and communicate your boundaries to others. Like it saves you and everyone around you so much grief when you just talk about it. And yeah, that's why I think it's so important to like destigmatize mental illness and to make it more of a commonplace thing, especially like I feel like in a more serious manner. Like I feel like it's important to just be able to say like, hey, I can't do this because I'm not having a good mental health day, or hey, I can't, like I don't, I would rather be alone today, or hey, like I really need to talk to someone. Are you free? Like stuff like that. I think people are more afraid of. I think more and more people are like open to talking about it, but not necessarily like talking about themselves. So I kind of want to show people that that's okay. And so I want, even with like the small platform I have, to like make that really clear that that's a big thing to me, just being honest with yourself and with others, and yeah, making it okay to talk about. It's very important to me.
Awesome. Yeah, that was actually something I really enjoyed too, is being able to set those boundaries on being able to say, hey, I can't, like for those of you guys, we were supposed to actually have a meeting yesterday, and yesterday I was just kind of having a day, and I was just like, man, I'm just not going to be there all mentally. And I ended up, yeah, so I was just like, voiced it to you, and you were very accepting. And too often when we do it to our friends, or we do it to family or work, it's just like, oh, there's that brief second where you're just like, man, maybe I should just push through. But it's like the more that you realize that people are accepting,
Yeah.
of like, hey, like you just being open about saying, hey, like, I need a me day, or it's just I need a second. So let's just pick this up.
Yeah.
Life is still going on.
It's so easy to do that. Like it's so easy to like listen to your body when you really try to do it. Cause I'm like 100% of like yes man. Like I will say yes to every opportunity. I'll say yes to anything people want to do. Like I'm just saying yes all the time because like I live in fear of missing like an opportunity to like have fun
Mhm.
or further my career or anything like that. So I always say yes. And a lot of the time, like I work against like what my body is telling me I need. Like, no, I actually really needed to like rest today. No, I actually really needed to sleep in today. Like it's you become like a better person and better like person to be around when you're like listening to yourself and feel really good. Like for me, following routines is super important for me to feel like mentally good with myself when I fall out of routine and kind of just like let myself fall into like a lazy day. I like cannot snap myself out of it. So for me, like it's super important to wake up early every day, to work out, to get dressed, and like that is what kind of keeps me in tune and keeps me able to like work and be productive and be like friendly and nice to people. Like I have to listen to my body and listen to my brain and then what I need to like feel good each day. And so I think it's super important to like communicate that to others, like, oh sorry, like I can't hang out, I actually like really need to like have a workout, or sorry, I really need to do like this self-care thing that is important to my routine, that's important to my mental health. Like taking time for yourself and saying no to things when you need to pay attention to like your mental health is so important, and I think should be destigmatized. Like if you have a stuffy nose, you can call out of work. If you have a fever, you can call out of work. But if you're like mentally struggling really bad, calling out of work is like that's not a normalized thing yet. And I think it should be, because more than anything, like you should be mentally healthy before like working or going out to like some sort of social event. Like so important to keep up with it.
Yeah, for me that one was a huge. I actually ended up having to leave one of my last jobs because the lack of care about certain people's mental health was just like, man, like you sign up all the papers and everything, do you have a disability? Yeah, sure, since that's what you want to classify it at. Yes, I do have a mental disability, whatever my mental illness or my diagnosis is. And it's like, you say this in the beginning paperwork and you start working for them and things are great. And it's like, okay, well, hey, remember those beginning paperwork that I signed in the beginning that said, hey, sometimes I just don't feel too great. Well, this is one of those days. And it was like, all right, cool. You could have like half the day off. And I'm like, okay, okay, thank you. And then the next day, I still wasn't feeling well. So I let him know. And it was just like, hey, he brought me into his office and he was like, hey, like, you can't keep missing work.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to, if you can't be here during this time, then I just don't think this is going to be a good fit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to hold it together. I'm just trying to hold it together right now, man. I'm
Yeah.
not in love with this sales job. I just need this because I need to pay my bills.
Yeah.
Like, just give me a second. Give me a second.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I feel like it's a big thing in our society, like especially it's like a very like capitalistic sense of like you have to work
mhm,
against yourself constantly, and like being exhausted is like the norm. And I don't like, I feel like kind of throughout COVID and like having to work from home, so many people are realizing that like I don't have to like be exhausted and unhappy all the time. Like I can still be super productive and like not be at work 12 hours a day, like, or be at an office for 9 hours a day. Like I feel like there's so many companies discovering that like the 9 to 5 thing actually really doesn't work that well, and it's not that necessary for people to be productive, especially in like creative fields. Like I just like was reading this article about like the whole like, 9 to 5 thing came from Ford, Henry Ford, right?
mm,
And like warehouse workers. And for them, like that made sense productivity wise, because those were the hours of the day that like people were awake. Those were the hours of the day that people could like be physically productive. But for like creative fields, for more like for sales and for like I'm in marketing, that is actually a very like unproductive way to work. To work consistently for 9 hours, 10 hours is actually really counterintuitive when it comes to like being productive, or even customer service. Like working an 8-hour shift by the end, like you're not a good customer service worker when you've been working for 8 to 12 hours. It's just,
Yeah.
but mentality is that like you have to work till you're exhausted, go home, eat dinner, sleep, and then do it again the next day, right? And I just don't think like now people are realizing that that really doesn't work, and it's not really that necessary. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that I think that mentality just like really is just in so many different aspects of our life. Like think about a workout. You know, you like working out too, and it's like they say you don't know or you don't feel like you had a good workout unless you're like exhausted after. It's like no, that's actually not how the body works. That's just how we've told ourselves that, oh, you know, exhausted, hard work, exhaust, results.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's
that's
movement.
So
Just movement. You showed up, even if you did the bare minimum, it's better than what you were doing by sitting on the couch or not doing anything at all. Like just a little bit gets you going. And maybe you just needed that active rest day where you're just like kind of just going through the motions, or just kind of you showed up and, you know, I walked for a while, you know, I picked up a few weights, put them back down, and, you know, I got a little, and it's like,
totally.
okay, it's okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine. And like, I have super had to fight against that mentality of like, I don't deserve to be happy unless I'm exhausted and unless I've done enough today. And that is so not true. Like it's really just about like listening to your body and like listening to what you need. And it's so hard when we're all basically raised to ignore our basic needs and ignore our mental health, like to be able to listen, like, oh, you know what, today, like I need this to feel better, or I need to stick to my routine because it's going to help me get through the day. Like stuff like that. It's just like learning to listen to what your body needs. It's so important. And I have such a hard time with it. I feel like almost everybody does, but like just like that reward system of like, I don't deserve to do something I enjoy unless I worked hard enough today, which is kind of like, I don't know.
Well, that
Sad, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough just because that's like just the mentality on so much, on like whether that be just our mental health or let it be physical. We've just allowed it to be played into like our lives and how we live them. And some people go their whole lives without actually truly feeling accomplished because, you know, they never felt like they gave it their all, or, you know, they never felt like they gave a relationship its all, or like we hold ourselves back like accountable for all of these different things where it's just like, you know, like you gave the best you could in the moments you were there. And then like even at work, it's like you gave the best you could in the moments you were there. Don't dwell on it after you leave, because then you're never actually giving yourself a break from what you do in your 9 to 5 or whatever you're doing throughout the day. And I think I know the quarantine and COVID it was like really terrible. It's affected a lot of pretty much every single person in every single way, but like people's like lost families, and that's terrible. But I think one of like the faint positives that came out of it is it allowed us to start realizing all these other things about life that we didn't need. And you're talking about like, you know, we're finally coming back home, or you're being able to come home. And it's like, yeah, like you may not be able to like go get your favorite coffee shop every single day or something like that, just because it was right next to work, or you missed the commute, or you missed like that like environment. But how many more kids feel like they get to see their parents more often now? You know, how many people get an opportunity to actually take that break, or work when they have to work, or work when they choose to work, and now get to go walk or do like go squeeze in a workout in between their meetings, because at work they couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You can't get all sweaty in the middle of work when you don't have time to actually like it's I think it's a blessing and a curse. It's more of like a really harsh reality of life that we're really not that much in control. And it literally just took a snap of the fingers, and literally every aspect of reality was just taken from us. It's like, oh, you like going outside? Don't. You like eating certain foods? Don't. Everything was like, no, now we're doing this. But I actually saw this article. I can't remember where it's from, but they said that 85% of people felt more productive since the quarantine started than previous years. And it's like, let's look at this. And now you have all the businesses that are actually shutting down physical locations, because now it's like, oh, well, we can literally do this just virtually. And it's like, think about how much money they're saving.
I know. Places like Twitter and Google are like, oh, we can just do this. Like, we're happier, and like we don't have to pay rent for like a giant office. But yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's such a weird mix of like all of these positive things that are coming out of it, and all of these ways that like society is being forced to look at itself and change. And like, I think that's why right now is such a big like social justice like focused year, is because people are home and they're less busy and they have time to think about like what is really wrong with like our society and with our systems, and how can we change it. But then again, like there's so much like pain and heartbreak and loss, and we're really seeing like how our healthcare system and how so many of our policies like have been failing us and are especially failing us right now. So it's such a like scary mix of things, but it just feels like everything's changing, which I am like excited to see how we come out of it, and how people change, and how our systems change, and our healthcare changes, and hopefully like it's all for the better. But yeah, it's been super insane to watch, and like I became very desensitized to everything like pretty early on, just like with the constant like horrible news and the constant like just like fighting and tragedy online. Like, I was just like, I can't take anymore. Like I had reached my sorrow level when it came to it. I cannot ingest anymore like tragedy. And I feel like a lot of people have been going through that the last few years, especially with like the internet and the constant 24-hour news cycle. Like we are just constantly being fed like the worst of the worst, and people are just like, I simply can't like handle it anymore, and I just won't. So I feel like now people, it's a little bit less because we aren't as busy, it's not as constant, and people are actually having like the capacity to look at our community as a whole and figure out what we can be doing better for each other. And I think that's really beautiful. So it's like I try to look at like the positives in situations like this, just because it's like, it is so insane what's happening right now, but there are some things that hopefully come out of it that are good for everybody. I don't know, it's wild.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I just love the movements, and just because now we're bringing people together in a way that makes sense. It's like we're just trying to do things that make sense now, and then everyone's like, oh, I can't wait till things go back to normal. And it's like, I kind of don't. I kind of hope that there's a new normal, and I hope that the way that things are going, everything's under the microscope. We've all been at home. We've all been able to see, because now it's like we were busy with lives. You would go out, you would do everything, you would go to work, go out, come back, be exhausted, go to bed. You wouldn't be sitting at home getting a notification on your computer every single 10 minutes when something else happens with just the news or just life. And then you're like, okay. Now it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's take all those things that like don't make sense. Let's work on them. Let's come together. Let's work on them. And we're working on like racial injustices. We're working on like healthcare problems. One of our big goals at Above the Stigma is I'd like to bring like affordable like mental health care to those low income communities. And even if it means that we have to find a way to get it funded to make sure that if communities that don't have any income get them the proper mental health care, because it's not fair that that's just something that, oh, as long as you have enough money, you can get it.
Yeah, exactly. It's so messed up that like mental health is not is considered like a luxury and not a necessity, or has been for a long time. And yeah, like I feel like now, because the whole world has this shared experience, we're starting to think more as a collective and less like individually, which I think is really necessary. Like I think in the States especially, like that sort of like individualistic like mentality is more prominent, but I think a sense of community is really important too, and to think of like what is better for all. Like I know and most people my age, our age, like I would pay more in taxes if it meant more people could get free healthcare. I would pay more in taxes if people can have access to mental health care for free. Like I would do that for the good of all, you know? And I think, you know, we weren't forced to like think about those things before, but now that we are all going through the exact same thing, we're all like connected a little bit more, and it feels more like of a community than it did before. It's really interesting. I don't know. I'm hoping that people will like that it will be like the new normal, you know. I mean, I don't think things will ever be the same, just because like this has been such a like cultural reset, and I'm interested to see like what changes and what goes back. But yeah, it's very, very interesting.
I love what I think one of my favorite things is seeing how many like the young generations, how loud they're getting.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yes, if you're unhappy about how things are, you know, sometimes raising your hand is not the answer, because, you know, sometimes you just don't get picked, or sometimes, you know, you get hurt and it's like, okay, one ear out the other. It's like, oh, well, what if me and all my classmates? What if me and all my city? What if me and my whole state got together and we just got together and we're like, hey, we don't like this. And, you know, you're forced to listen to a group of people. And I think it's beautiful. I think just things have been set up in such a way for only like less than half of the population to truly thrive in this environment.
Yeah.
And now, okay, now the other half, or a little bit more than half, is just like, hey, either let's even up the scales, or let's give us more resources. Let's figure this out, because it's just not okay. It's not okay. But
I love TikTok. I'm obsessed with TikTok, but it feels like TikTok has become like a social justice tool at this point. Like the younger generation is able to connect and reach more people, and like it's so cool to see like how TikTok became such a big part of like the social justice movement in the last few months. I love seeing it, and then like I feel like mental health and like honesty is like really apparent on TikTok, or like more normalized. Like people are like very open with their mental health, with their struggles, with their wins, with their losses. Like people just talk about anything on there, and it's so cool. I think that's why like that's the first platform that I felt like really comfortable just being honest about like what I'm going through, or like who I am. And you know, it's so cool to see like just like these kids being like honest about what they're going through, and it's nice. I really like it. I never felt that way on another like social media platform. Like I didn't feel like I could be like totally myself and talk about my struggles on Instagram, but like TikTok is kind of the platform for it. You can just talk and you can just like connect with people, and it's not as like performative, which is cool. I like it.
Yeah, that's actually how we like unofficially met. I had messaged, I like saw your video on TikTok, because that's you're 100% right. Like so many people are open about their just emotions and what's really going on with them, because now you have anywhere from 15 seconds to a minute, and you know, you just put it out there. And I think it's beautiful because it's like free therapy, but it's just communicating to yourself like what's really going on, allowing you just a space to just like almost like journaling. Like my best friend, she does video journaling, and she's realized that that's been the greatest thing ever. She was like, yeah, I would just get writer's block all the time, but now as soon as like she's like, yeah, I just spent 2.5 hours talking to myself. And I was like, dude, that's so great, but it's like that's where everyone on TikTok's like, you know, like whether you like attach to a sound, or you attach to a video, or you attach to someone else's story, like the community that just is growing from it is beautiful. And that's actually how I do a lot of my reaching out, through TikTok, because it's like, yeah, half of my videos are just me trying to figure out some little dance, or I like a sound, you know, myself too, you know, I'll have fun. But you know, when you see somebody like going through a hard time, or you find somebody just so empowering with their voice, like whether like they've been through any hardships, and then, you know, you just see this moment in that light in their eyes, and they're just like, no, enough is enough. Like this is me.
Yeah.
This is the real me.
Yeah. Or even people like, and people are connecting with that, you know, and they're like, oh, I go through the same thing, or like I have done the exact same thing, or I feel the same way about this. Like there's this account that I follow that I love so much. Oh, I can't think of the handle name, but it's this girl, and she just is like super positive. And like her video, just like, this is what I eat in a day, like recovering from my eating disorder, and you deserve food, and your body deserves food, and if you're hungry, you deserve to eat, and you're beautiful. And like just like every single one of her videos is just like so positive and beautiful, and she's grown such a huge platform from it, and is just like using TikTok to help people through eating disorders. Like that is so insane that is something someone can do now. Like you can literally just make a video like saying what you're going through, what you do to help yourself, and how other people deserve to feel better as well, and it will change people's lives. Like that account has totally changed the way, like if I see one of her videos, like it will make me feel so much better for the rest of the day. Like stuff like that can really change people's perspectives. I love seeing it, and I love reading comments of people like, this account has changed my life, like this video made me like feel like I deserve to eat breakfast today, like stuff like that, where it's like that is huge for people, and it's so important. Like if you have a platform, or even just building a platform, like that is such a beautiful thing that you can just do on TikTok. It's so cool.
I love it. Now, what are some of the struggles? Because actually we do have a pretty good following that are like upcoming artists, painters, like just in that freelance field where you're passionate about something, and it's just so beautiful because it's like your own form of art. Now, what was that struggle like making your first album?
Oh man.
What is that? What is that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I really struggle with anxiety, and especially like social anxiety. And so like writing has always been my outlet, and it's always been like the way that I express myself the best, and writing music especially. And I like wrote this whole EP that I'm going to be putting out on December 4th, and I was so nervous to put it out. And I feel like that's one of the biggest struggles, I think, for most artists, is like not the actual making of the thing, because that's like kind of the best part, but putting it out in the world and being vulnerable, and like, you know, it's sort of like putting yourself out there for everyone to see and everyone to hear, and like that is so terrifying. That's been like the biggest thing for me. Like it's so hard to start doing it, just because it's really a very vulnerable thing to do, to like release art that you make for the whole world to hear and like criticize and use how they want to use it. So that was definitely like the biggest struggle for me, like getting the like courage to release it. But once I did, like the response has been so positive, and I see people like connecting with my music, and I get messages from people like saying, especially with like some of my songs kind of touch into like a little bit heavier topics, and I've gotten so many messages like from women who have been through similar situations, through people that, you know, just like appreciate like that kind of like honesty in a song. And for me it was just terrifying to put out, but getting that kind of like response from people has been so amazing, and seeing how like it encouraged someone else to talk about their experience, like that is so huge to me, and that means so much to me. So I've really like gotten used to the feeling of like that fear of putting stuff out, because it's so worth it if like even just like one person like connects to it, which is so cheesy, but it really does like make such a huge difference, and like it makes it feel really worth it. Like if one person listens to my song and like feels something or feels heard or understood, like that is insanity. Like that concept is so crazy to me. So yeah, I mean, other than that, I think, I mean, just a struggle of like feeling like good enough. That's a big thing. I think a lot of artists also feel is like like hoping that you're good enough to make something like this work. But yeah, I mean, it's been really cool, and I've also like connected with so many artists and stuff like that once I started releasing music, and it's been cool to like sort of create a community of people. But yeah, sort of what I'm working on.
No, I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, that's beautiful. It's just anyone finding their voice through their expression, and then almost going through kind of in its own way, like some type of exposure therapy where you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna immerse myself in it, and
Yep.
then you get all these little, I love this,
Yeah.
thank you, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it wasn't so scary after all, because you know we're all scared of, or I think a good majority of people are just scared of not being good enough,
Yeah, it's
not
true.
not feeling worth it, or just we just have such a problem with our own self-image that it's just, why do I deserve this? And it's like, no, forget that. We all deserve this. We all deserve to find our own happiness. We all deserve to find some platform or some way to be their own voice. And even if it's just your own expression of being happy, I think that's beautiful. I think that's what life is really about. Not it's nothing you really obtain like physically. It's this. It's how you're connecting to people. It's how you start to find more and more value in yourself.
For sure.
And I think that's really awesome. I think it's really awesome what you're doing, and I'm super supportive of it. And yeah, no, I also, my neighbors probably know your song by heart, because I've been like working in the garage for like probably like the last week. Usually I'm like running around going to different schools, but because like they're all like off for like the week, so I'm just like, you know, I'll get some stuff done here. And so I've just been like playing your songs, and I'm just like, okay, all right, all right, man. Mm-hmm. Having a good time, having a good time. And but I think that's really awesome, and I look forward to it coming out December 4th. And you guys definitely check it out. I'm gonna definitely be posting it, tagging you along the way. And yeah, I really do appreciate you kind of putting yourself out there in general on TikTok first, because that's how we even got connected. And I was like, hey, I don't know if she's gonna answer me, but I want to just tell her that I appreciate her. And here we are. It's just great. I think it's great how you're finding your value, finding your voice, or you found your voice, but now it's just letting it ride, letting you be who you are, letting King Mala be their truest self. Yeah, there we go. There we go. I think I look forward to everything that you have ahead. And anything that comes up in the future that you want us to, either be supportive, or if you want to have another talk, I think that would be really cool. And yeah, was there anything else you wanted to let anyone else know about, or?
Man, I think that's it. Thank you so much for having me. I love any opportunity to talk about this kind of stuff and bring awareness to it. So yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Now, yeah, so you guys know at Above Stigma, we're just here. We're just trying to normalize hard conversations, or just conversations about mental health, because, these are the conversations that truly do let people know that it doesn't matter how big or small the topic is, a conversation's worth having.
Yeah.
Because you never know truly who's listening. You never know who's going to be taking to your story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do want to thank you, Areli, for coming out here. And I look forward to your EP coming out December 4th. Everybody, we're going to be downloading that. I want at least, there's like 600 of us. So I want 600 coming straight from us. But yeah, I thank you. And I look forward to the next time we speak.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.